And away we go, episode 1389 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Monday, August 17th, 2026, and we have yet another significant Washington Commanders injury, about which to be worried. I know. This is a Monday. Gee, Galdi, do you have to hit us with bad news right away? I'm sorry, but I don't make the news. I don't write the news. I do not script the news. I wish that I could, but I can't. But Washington's QB2, Marcus Mariota, he and the team's preseason opening 27 win over the Miami Dolphins at Northwest Stadium this past Friday night, suffered a sprained MCL in his right knee. He is out for the rest of the preseason, but he is expected to be ready for the start of the regular season. All of this was confirmed by head coach Dan Quinn in a virtual press conference on Sunday afternoon. So, a sigh of relief. Hello and welcome to this Monday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, which follows Washington, D.C. area sports so that you don't have to. This also is a podcast in which we talk Washington Commanders on every episode, no matter the time of year and no matter the news, however good or bad. Next segment, discussion of the impact of the Marcus Mariota injury, assessments of the performances of quarterbacks Athan Kaliakmanis and Sam Hartman in the preseason opening win over the Dolphins, updates on the recoveries of other injured players in center Nick Allegretti, tight end John Bates, running back Jeremy McNichols, and cornerback Trey Amos, and reaction to the NFL suspending defensive end Dorance Armstrong without pay for Washington's first game of the 2026 regular season due to a violation of the league's personal conduct policy. The following segment, further conversation about the preseason opening win over the Dolphins, including standout performances by two rookie running backs in Katron Allen and Robert Henry Jr., what went down in the kicker competition, and a disappointing game-opening drive for the defense. And also on the show, breakdowns of the Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles weekends. The Nats, they over the weekend got swept in a 3-game series at the New York Mets. I'll react to that and to the big news from Friday afternoon. Nats manager Blake Butera, during his pregame session with reporters on Friday afternoon, announced major news that the team is moving C.J. Abrams from being primarily a shortstop to being primarily a second baseman. The O's, they over the weekend won the first 3 games of a 4-game series at the American League leading Tampa Bay Rays, and the O's now, remarkably, are in sole possession of the American League's third of 3 wildcard spots. Now, few things in life are as mid as the American League wildcard standings in MLB's 2026 regular season, but here we are, the O's in sole possession of the American League's third of 3 wildcard spots. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. You can reach me via writing a review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can write about whatever you want, and I'll read what you write if you give the podcast a 5-star rating. Email from Visal on the Jayden Daniels LSU situation, and this has become quite the situation. As you likely know by now, ESPN college football insider Mark Schlabach, he late night this past Wednesday night reported that an attorney representing Washington quarterback Jayden Daniels had informed LSU that it can no longer use Daniels' name, image, and likeness, and that the reason for this, per a statement from Daniels' spokesperson to ESPN, is that LSU is allowing sophomore cornerback DJ Pickett to wear the number 5 jersey that Daniels wore over his 2 seasons playing for LSU, 2022 and 2023, and Daniels for the 2023 season won the Heisman Trophy. On Friday's show, episode 1388, gave my take on the situation, including that this story is out of character for Jayden Daniels. This is not the Jayden Daniels who we have come to know. Writes Visal, Al, in episode 1388, while speaking on the Jayden Daniels LSU situation, you mentioned that Jayden acting in this manner is not the Jayden Daniels we know. Well, this is a friendly reminder, my dear friend, that inside of everyone you know is someone you don't. Keep up the great work as always. Thank you for the email, Visal. I like that. Inside of everyone you know is someone you don't know. Wise words. We as human beings are complex and multifaceted and not always exactly as we seem. What has become especially remarkable about this Jayden Daniels LSU situation is the extent to which Daniels is getting pummeled, the extent to which our guy is getting hammered. We are used to Daniels being universally well regarded. Well, he in recent days has become a punchline. StubHub on Thursday evening in a post on X, quote, effective immediately, we will no longer offer tickets in groups of 5. Out of respect for Jayden Daniels, we're only doing 4 or 6 plus. Thank you for your understanding, end quote. The New York Mets, they on Friday night in a post on X off their 4-1 win over the visiting Nats on Friday night, quote, stopped at 4 out of respect for Jayden Daniels, end quote. The X account from Masson's Orioles coverage on Friday night in a post on X off a 2-run homer by shortstop Gunnar Henderson, quote, went from 4 to 6 runs out of respect for Jayden Daniels, end quote. The Cleveland Guardians, they on Saturday night in a post on X off their 6-1 win over the visiting San Diego Padres on Saturday night, quote, won by 5 because we're not scared of Jayden Daniels, end quote. One of the most significant voices in college football, especially the SEC, ESPN's Paul Feinbaum. He was on the Sports Junkies on 106.7 The Fan this past Friday morning. Take a listen to this.
I want to say one thing. I'm not an equivocator, but I got to know Jayden when he was at LSU, really liked him, talked to him a lot, and I would interview Brian Kelly. And even when he went to the Commanders, there was a great sense of pride in what he did the first year. I said all that to say this. He's lost all of that from everywhere and everyone in LSU Nation after what happened this week. And I know it's been said here before, but I rarely have ever seen a dumber, more senseless move. I don't know who pulled the strings, but all the cleanup on aisle 3 from Jayden Daniels from this moment on will not be enough. He has made a terrible mistake. He can be successful in Washington. I hope he is, but I would advise him to never waste another second in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because they are done with him.
So Paul Feinbaum blasting Jayden Daniels, or at least the camp of Jayden Daniels. Now, of course, Paul Feinbaum is a big SEC guy. He's going to take the side of an SEC power like LSU, but I don't know of anyone who believes that Daniels' camp has handled this situation well from a public relations standpoint. The statement from the Daniels spokesperson to ESPN was so over the top and came off as really egotistical. Quote, the Daniels family is deeply disappointed and feels profoundly disrespected by LSU's decision to give Jayden's number to another player, end quote. As I said on Friday's show, the Jayden Daniels LSU situation is a story that will have zero impact on how Daniels or Washington does in the team's 2026 season. This is not a story relevant to the on-the-field product of the Washington Commanders, but this is a strange story. However you feel about how in the right Daniels may be, the story has been botched by Daniels' team from a public relations standpoint. And yeah, the story has resulted in Daniels getting mocked and criticized like crazy. I don't like saying that, all right? But it's true. Jayden Daniels is our QB1. He's our guy. I am rooting so hard for him to have a great 2026 season. I want him to kill it in the 2026 season and shove all of the criticism down the throats of all the people ripping him right now. But he is taking a pounding for this situation with LSU. There's no doubt about that. But I do want to add this. I really like how Dan Quinn, during his press conference on Sunday afternoon, addressed the Jayden Daniels LSU situation. Quinn got asked about it, barely addressed it, and immediately shifted the conversation to the great training camp that Daniels is having. Masterfully done by Dan Quinn. Here you go, Quinn's answer in response to a question from Commanders insider J.P. Finley of NBC4.
I haven't followed it a lot, JP, but I know he addressed it. Of course, obviously, checked in with him like you do, but honestly, man, is he throwing a great camp. So, but I haven't followed a lot. I know he addressed it. I thought that was on point. But for him, the things that I see are just like quintessential Jayden in terms of the camp and what it looks like and where he's at. So it's nice to see him already starting a connection with Steph and Terry and Chig and some of the others, just some extra work post practices and getting into that space. So no, he's been great, here inside the building for sure.
Yeah, well done by Dan Quinn. He got asked about the Jayden Daniels LSU situation, barely addressed it, and immediately shifted the conversation to the great training camp that Daniels is having. Hey, football season is here. No podcast covers the Washington Commanders like this podcast does. If you would like to grow your business or practice, consider advertising on this podcast. We'd love to have you on board, and we're offering great deals in honor of the football season. Get your message out there to thousands of successful people in the Washington, D.C. area. Email us to see what we can do for you. The email address is thealgaldipodcast@yahoo.com.
If you're like me, you're the kid who savored every last drop of sugary milk at the bottom of your cereal bowl while watching Saturday morning cartoons. Kachava's new flavor, Cinnamon French Toast, gives you a bit of that classic nostalgia. And I love that it's made with real cinnamon bark. It's a comfort flavor, but with benefits and without the sugary drawbacks. There's no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. It's non-GMO, there's no soy, there's no animal products, no gluten, and no preservatives. But Kachava does provide all the nutrition your body craves in one deliciously simple shake with just 2 scoops. So treat yourself to a childhood favorite. Go to Kachava.com and use code SPORTS for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, Kachava.com with code SPORTS.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, 0 tears.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Well, if there is such a thing as bad news that is good news, we got that with the Washington Commanders on Sunday afternoon. Washington began its 2026 preseason with a 27 win over the Miami Dolphins at Northwest Stadium this past Friday night. Nothing from the game, from a Washington standpoint, mattered more than what happened with the team's QB2, Marcus Mariota. He was Washington's starting quarterback for the game, played on just 4 offensive snaps and on just 1 offensive drive. 3rd and 8 for Washington at its 31 with 7:15 left in the first quarter. Mariota had a 22-yard shotgun completion to receiver De'Ami Brown. Terrific play, but Mariota on the play took a quarterback hit from inside linebacker Tyrell Dodson. The next snap was a 1-yard pistol handoff run by running back Katron Allen, but Mariota on the play was limping badly and then came out of the game. And the extent to which Mariota was limping was concerning. His right leg looked to be in really bad shape. You didn't know what to think. Head coach Dan Quinn did a virtual press conference on Sunday afternoon during which he confirmed reports from Sunday morning saying that Mariota has suffered a sprained MCL in his right knee and is out for the rest of the preseason. However, Quinn also said that Mariota is expected to be ready for the start of the regular season and that the team at this time isn't acquiring another quarterback. And that, to me, is the most encouraging item of all. If Washington really was worried about Mariota not being ready for the start of the regular season, the team would be acquiring another quarterback. That it isn't acquiring another quarterback says a lot. Now, that Mariota has suffered a sprained MCL in his right knee isn't good, and this injury does continue a bad run of injury luck for Washington during its 2026 training camp and 2026 preseason so far. Also on Friday night, by the way, was Washington cornerback Fred Davis II, an undrafted rookie at a Northwestern, being carted off the field in the fourth quarter. We on Sunday afternoon did not get an update on him, but consider the following. Washington starting left tackle, Laramie Tunsil, right? He suffered a torn triceps during training camp practice on August 8th. The favorite to be Washington starting center, Nick Allegretti, he has been out since suffering a calf strain during training camp practice on July 29th. It was the team's first practice of 2026 training camp, although there is encouraging news on him. You'll hear that in moments. So there's also encouraging news on Washington's number 2 overall tight end and number 1 blocking tight end, John Bates, but he has been out since suffering a hamstring strain during training camp practice on July 30th. Running back Jeremy McNichols, he per Dan Quinn during his press conference on Sunday afternoon, is dealing with a quadriceps injury that will keep McNichols out for multiple weeks. And cornerback Trey Amos, he has been out since suffering an ankle injury during training camp practice on August 8th. This off him having been on the active/physically unable to perform list from July 25th until August 7th as he was dealing with soft tissue soreness off the fractured fibula that he suffered in Washington's 44-22 loss to the Detroit Lions at Northwest Stadium this past November 9th. This was the opening statement of Dan Quinn's press conference on Sunday afternoon. Then you'll hear a follow-up back and forth between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Quinn, and then you'll hear a follow-up back and forth between Commanders insider Nikki Javala of The Athletic and Quinn.
I know after the game, we kind of inquired about some of the injuries. So Marcus was the one we wanted to find out more about. So he does have a right knee MCL sprain. That'll knock him out for the rest of the preseason. Optimistic that he'll be ready for the start of the regular season. Two other updates on a good note. There's good progress on John Bates and Nick Allegretti, and they will both work back into practice on Tuesday. So lots discussed on the game. We also have two padded practices this week in this block, kind of getting us rolling. So glad to get rolling with you guys.
Go ahead, Con. Is there any concern for Marcus for the regular season, and do you plan to bring somebody else in at that position in the interim?
Yep. So the answer to both, we're optimistic that for the regular season at the start that he'll be ready at that time. And at this time, no, we don't anticipate anybody else coming in. So it'll allow more reps, over the next couple weeks with Sam and Athan in that spot.
And then do you also have an update on Trey Amos?
You know what? No update. So with Trey, he is continuing the rehab on his ankle, John. He's dealing with soreness it's not like a re-aggravation of the injuries, but he's not there yet in terms of fully back and going on it. So he'll be in the same space. You'll see him out doing stuff to the side, working into that spot, but he won't be, fully able to participate this week.
Thank you.
You got it?
Nikki? Dan, does Marcus's injury affect your plan for Jayden in the preseason at all?
Yeah, I definitely thinking, that was like a question on the top of my head, and I was staying in the block this week really before we get into the preparation for that as far as the game goes. So not right now, it doesn't, Nikki. I recognize the question for sure, but right now we're kind of going into these 2 days as still a training camp mode. That'll be Tuesday and Wednesday and big padded stuff. So as far as how much and starters and what we do, some of it will depend on what I'm seeing on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we got a bunch of situations that I'm trying to work through, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, some goal line stuff. So this is kind of our most heightened training camp block coming up. So I'm excited to see that, but we haven't got in terms of planning of the game yet of that part.
And then with Trey, him coming off the fractured fibula and now dealing with the ankle, I think he's had one camp practice. What's sort of your level of concern just as the regular season approaches, just in terms of his readiness for the season?
Yeah, I'm optimistic, but you're right about the practice piece. As we're coming back with Nick Allegretti, he had 6 reps in practice 1 and was injured. So, I'm excited for him to get back to practice, and we all need it. And so that'll be an important piece for Trey too, to get back to saying, okay, not only just the movements, the skills, the conditioning. So, there's certainly concern. He's working hard, but, with these next, 2.5 weeks, I would say those would be important, Nikki, to see the progress, to say, okay, ramping up hard, almost there into that spot. And so maybe in a week's or so time, I'll have a better estimate to say, okay, they do this return to play, which I love following, but I need to see each of the steps made.
So a few thoughts off all of that. I do expect Washington starters / key players to play more in the team's next preseason game, the game at the Detroit Lions this Saturday at noon, than Washington starters / key players played in the win over the Dolphins this past Friday night. But Marcus Mariota being out for the rest of the preseason should have zero impact on how the team handles Jayden Daniels the rest of the preseason. What is happening with the QB2 should not impact what is happening with the QB1. Daniels should play no more or no less than he was supposed to play prior to Mariota getting injured. Also, good news on Nick Allegretti and John Bates, with them being back practicing on Tuesday morning. Allegretti especially needs to be back practicing. Washington on Sunday had a walkthrough in team meetings, but no full practice. The team has an off day on Monday, but then has full practices on Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning. But as mentioned, Allegretti has been out since suffering a calf strain during training camp practice on July 29th, what was the team's first practice of this training camp. He has been been out for a while. Not good for the man who is the favorite to be the team's new number one center, especially given that the team has a new offense and a new offensive coordinator in David Blau. We, during Dan Quinn's press conference on Sunday afternoon, had this back and forth between WUSA 9 sports anchor Marshall Kramsky and Quinn.
Hey, Coach. With Allegretti coming back, hopefully this week, how important do you think, because of his limited snaps he's had so far in practice, is it to get him and Jayden game speed reps together before the regular season?
Yeah, it's for sure super important, not just for he and Jay, but for the two guards next to him, the identification, the call. So he's been doing the walkthroughs in the evenings, but that's just not the same. And so those reps will be important. We won't give him 50 plays right off the bat. We'll work him back into a ramp up as he's returning to play. But it is super important. Just to make sure the communication, the calls, all of that comes together. So that's the goal, man. Now, start stacking days with he and Jay together.
Can you replicate that in practice, or do you think a preseason game brings a different level?
I think you can replicate it in practice because we've shown that you can do that. The different looks, the games are the best in terms of the evaluation. It's the highest level of it, but you for sure can replicate it as best you can in the practices for sure.
Okay, and then the Trey Amos situation. Look, this is concerning. And Dan Quinn on Sunday afternoon, and what we heard earlier, admitted that all of this missed practice time for Amos isn't good. Washington's situation at cornerback already was concerning. It has become even more concerning. But I am super happy about this Marcus Mariota news, given what could have been. I mean, this ends up being, as I talked about earlier, right? Bad news. That is good news if such a thing exists. Another aspect of this Marcus Mariota injury is, what does this mean regarding Washington's initial 53-man roster for the 2026 season? We're now less than 2 weeks away from the cut down to 53. It is by Sunday, August 30th at 6 p.m. Eastern that each NFL team must have its active roster at no more than 53 players. Washington, in each of its first two seasons, with Adam Peters as general manager and Dan Quinn as head coach, has had three quarterbacks on the initial 53 for the season. 2024, Jayden Daniels, Marcus Mariota, and Jeff Driscoll. 2025, Jayden Daniels, Marcus Mariota, and Josh Johnson. The thinking had been that Washington for the 2026 season might have two instead of three quarterbacks on the team's initial 53, but now maybe the team needs to have three quarterbacks on the initial 53 due to uncertainty with Mariota. We, over the offseason and now training camp, have had a battle for QB3, right? Sam Hartman, who the team signed as an undrafted free agent at Notre Dame in April 2024, versus Athan Kaliakmanis, who the team took in the 7th round of the 2026 NFL draft at Rutgers. When it came to the preseason opening win over Miami this past Friday night, Athan Kaliakmanis had a better showing than Sam Hartman had. Sam Hartman went just 8 for 15 for just 80 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. He took one sack. He had 3 carries for 13 yards. He played on 49% of Washington's offensive snaps. The interception was really bad. 3rd and 10 for Washington at Miami's 30 with 8 seconds left in the first quarter. Hartman badly overthrew receiver De'Ami Brown on a shotgun deep pass and was intercepted by cornerback Marco Wilson. Hartman had an outstanding pocket in which he had a ton of time to throw, and he just made a terrible pass. Also, Hartman had a pass attempt that could have resulted in an interception. 2nd and goal at the 4, 10:57 left in the second quarter. Hartman on a shotgun pass underthrew receiver Jalen Lane and was nearly picked off by cornerback Chris Johnson in the end zone. Hartman did make some plays. He wasn't all bad, but he overall was not good. And remember, Sam Hartman last preseason really struggled. Your Sam Hartman stats for the 2025 preseason: 3 games, a completion percentage of just 54.35, a yards per pass attempt of just 4.5, no touchdown passes versus 4 interceptions. He had possibly the worst preseason that any Washington quarterback has ever had. Now, in fairness to him, he in the 2025 offseason did undergo surgery on his right shoulder, his throwing shoulder, so perhaps he in that 2025 preseason wasn't totally healthy, but he did not look good. He also did not have a good 2025 training camp. Then Washington offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury essentially said that during the team's 2025 training camp. As for Athan Kaliakmanis this past Friday night, he went 6 for for 10 for 87 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. He took 2 sacks, officially had 2 carries for -3 yards, but those carries came via 2 kneel downs over the final 2 snaps of the game. He played on 45% of Washington's offensive snaps. Kaliakmanis was not perfect, but he had some nice completions. 1st and 10 for Washington at its 19 with 11:59 left in the third quarter. Kaliakmanis had a 16-yard under center play action completion to receiver Antonio Williams. 2nd and 8 for Washington at its 37 with 10:53 left in the third quarter. Kaliakmanis had a 17-yard under center play action completion to tight end Colson Yankoff. 1st and 10 for Washington at its 21 with 3:44 left in the third quarter. Kaliakmanis had a 28-yard under center play action completion to receiver Jacoby Jones, who was wide open. Kaliakmanis' worst snap was a sack. 3rd and 7 for Washington at its 41 with 6:20 left in the third quarter. Kaliakmanis took a sack for an 11-yard loss. Cannot take a sack in that situation. During Dan Quinn's postgame press conference late night on Friday night, had this exchange between sports anchor John Duran of WUSA 9 and Quinn.
What did you think of Athan's performance tonight?
You know, coming in, I was pleased to see him in the chaos. And so I thought both quarterbacks did a nice job at the end of the half. It's not something that's going to show up on the stat sheet, but Sam using a lot of the clock, 2 minute at the end of the first half. We were able to get in, and so using that clock so they don't have another op, knowing that we were going to get the ball to start the second half. And then for Athan to see him communicate and then also be at the end of the game using the clock in a 4-minute, anytime you can basically end the half, with the ball, to get points and end the game, with it, that's a big deal. And the quarterback has a big responsibility in that, using the clock. I didn't use timeouts until it got to a certain spot. So he felt calm in the space tonight. I'll be looking forward to watching him. I thought you'd see his arm strength come out a little bit, and it did on some of the play-action passes. Both probably had a couple throws they'd like to have back. Sam had an interception and one that could have been AK on a sack, that needed to be a throwaway to cause the longer yards. Those are learning lessons that they need. And I knew coming in that there would be mistakes, but I also recognize, make them, how do you learn from them? How do you grow? And that's what I'm looking to see from he and Sam, as we're going, when the mistakes happen, are they repeated? Do they grow? But I thought, DJ did a nice job getting the guys ready into that spot. Obviously, didn't want to see Marcus leave earlier. But Sam, I thought, was ready for the moment and made a couple good throws and some conversions that we needed at that time after a long drive, to go down and score against us.
All right. Well, also with Washington over the last few days has been another bad news item. The NFL on Friday afternoon announced that the league had suspended defensive end Dorance Armstrong without pay for Washington's first game of the 2026 regular season. This due to a violation of the league's personal conduct policy. And we have since found out that Armstrong on May 10th, 2025 was arrested in Frisco, Texas on 2 misdemeanor charges: assault causing bodily injury and resisting arrest / search or transport. He was on probation for 9 months and received deferred adjudication in both cases. Now, it is possible that Armstrong would not have been healthy enough to play in Washington's first game of the 2026 regular season anyway. He was on the active / physically unable to perform list from July 25th to August 7th in his recovery from a torn ACL that he suffered in Washington's 44-22 loss at the Dallas Cowboys last October 19th. But the fact that he has been off that list for more than a week now suggests that he very possibly would have been healthy enough to play in Washington's first game of the 2026 regular season. And not having a healthy Dorance Armstrong in that game is a blow. Armstrong in the 2025 regular season played in just 7 of Washington's 17 games, but he over those 7 games totaled 5.5 sacks, 22 pressures per Pro Football Focus, and an overall grade per PFF of 77.6. That's good. PFF grades are on a scale of 0 to 160 is average. Armstrong in the 2024 regular season played in 16 of Washington's 17 games, totaling 5.5 sacks. He in the postseason for the 2024 season played in each of Washington's 3 games, totaling 3.5 sacks. He in 19 games over the regular season and postseason for the 2024 season totaled 51 pressures per PFF. Washington on March 14th, 2024 officially announced having signed Armstrong as an unrestricted free agent. The contract per overthecap.com and spottrack.com, a 3-year, $33 million deal with $16.125 million fully guaranteed at signing. But 2 other things with this suspension of Dorance Armstrong. Number one, interesting that this is a suspension stemming from an incident all the way back in May 2025. Not May 2026, May 2025. Number two, how is it that it was virtually unknown that this guy had gotten arrested? This is like the Ben Steele situation. Washington on July 27th put out a statement, quote, "We are parting ways with tight ends coach Ben Steele. The team will have no further comment at this time," end quote. And we later that day found out that according to court records for Loudoun County, Virginia, Steele this past June 7th was arrested on suspicion of driving while intoxicated and faced additional charges for refusing a blood/breath test, obstructing/resisting without force, and changing course after signaling. But Washington had not leaked that he had gotten arrested, nor had anyone covering the team uncovered that he had gotten arrested until the team put out that statement, even though we came to find out that he wasn't even coaching the tight ends during the team's 3-day mandatory minicamp in June due to being on leave. He wasn't coaching the tight ends, and yet nobody in the media seemed to notice. Washington these days is keeping just about everything on lock. Ben Steele got arrested this past June, and pretty much nobody knew. Dorance Armstrong got arrested in May 2025. But pretty much nobody knew. But we do know this. Catering by Uptown is tremendous. Whatever big event that you're planning, a wedding, a party, a corporate gathering, consider using a great sponsor of this podcast, Catering by Uptown. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Catering by Uptown is outstanding. It is a family business. It is run by the Pereiras, who are terrific Washington Commanders fans. And Catering by Uptown will provide you and your event with excellent service. Catering by Uptown staff on the day of your event is the first to arrive and last to leave, and is fully prepared to offer quality, variety, and abundance, prepared to execute the plan that you and Catering by Uptown created together. Catering by Uptown specialty is weddings. Get excellent service at an affordable price. In fact, if you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can check out Catering by Uptown's premier wedding venues. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. More now on the Washington Commanders off their preseason opening 27 win over the Miami Dolphins at Northwest Stadium this past Friday night. So, as we expected, Washington in this game did not play a number of starters/key players. Washington, about 90 minutes before the start of the game, announced that 26 of the team's players would not play in the game. Washington offensive players who did not play in the game: quarterback Jayden Daniels, receivers Terry McLaurin and Stephon Diggs, tight ends Chika Okonkwo and John Bates, running backs Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Rashad White, and Jeremy McNichols, and offensive linemen Laramie Tunsil, Josh Connerly Jr., Samuel Cosme, and Nick Allegretti. Washington defensive players who did not play in the game: defensive tackles Deron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, and Tim Settle, defensive ends Dorance Armstrong, Charles Omenihu, and Dietrich Wise Jr., who is on the active/physically unable to perform list. Outside linebackers Adafe Owe and Kaylavon Chason, inside linebacker Frankie Louvu, cornerbacks Trey Amos, Mikey Sainristil, and Amik Robertson, and safeties Nick Cross and Jeremy Reeves. Additionally, punter Tressway did not punt in this game. He did serve as Washington's holder, but Washington's punter for this game was Matt Hawk, who Washington on July 29th announced having signed Hawk as an unrestricted free agent due to Way being on the active/non-football injury list due to a pectoral muscle injury. The biggest bright spot for Washington in this game was that 2 rookie Washington running backs did well. Katron Allen and Robert Henry Jr. They combined for 35 carries for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. Very nice performances by these two. Kaytron Allen, the man known as Fat Man, Washington took him in the 6th round of the 2026 NFL Draft out of Penn State. He on Friday night had 23 carries for 85 yards and a touchdown and had 1 reception for 1 yard on 2 targets. He played on a team-high 63% of Washington's offensive snaps. He got a lot of work, and he did well. 1st and 10 for Washington at its 47 with 1:42 left in the first quarter. Allen had a 7-yard under center handoff run. 1st and 10 for Washington at its 35 with 2:54 left in the second quarter. Allen had a 16-yard under center handoff run. Allen had a 3rd and goal, 1-yard under center handoff touchdown run with 8 seconds left in the second quarter. 2nd and 13 for Washington at Miami's 36 with 2:44 left in the fourth quarter. Allen had a 7-yard shotgun handoff run. 3rd and 6 for Washington at Miami's 29 with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Allen had a 12-yard under center handoff run. Kaytron Allen was used to close out the game. The man known as Fat Man was used as the closer. Kaytron Allen is a punishing, physical, between the tackles kind of runner. Does not overwhelm you with his speed. He is a high floor, low ceiling running back prospect. He's not a guy who's going to wow you in practice. He's a guy who can stand out in games, and he on Friday night stood out. And then Robert Henry Jr., undrafted rookie at a UTSA, the University of Texas at San Antonio. He on Friday night had 12 carries for 75 yards and a touchdown. Had no targets, but also was used as a returner, registered a punt return for no yards in the third quarter, but also a kickoff return for 30 yards to begin the third quarter. Although I'm not sure if the accounting of that is correct. The NFL's official game book for this game has Washington having committed a 10-yard offensive holding penalty on that play. The penalty by linebacker Kane Medrano. Anyway, Henry played on 31% of Washington's offensive snaps, but I mentioned 12 carries for 75 yards. That works out to 6.25 yards per carry. 2nd and 3 for Washington at Miami's 48 with 5:48 left in the second quarter. Henry had a 15-yard under center handoff run. Henry had a 1st and 10, 22-yard shotgun handoff touchdown run with 4:28 left in the second quarter. Got to the outside and then burst down the right sideline, including plowing through a pathetic attempted tackle by safety Lonnie Johnson Jr., who had zero interest in tackling Henry. 1st and 10 for Washington at its 41 with 5:01 left in the fourth quarter. Henry had a 6-yard under center handoff run. Robert Henry Jr., very intriguing undrafted rookie running back. He had the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, registered a 40-yard dash time of 4.52 seconds. So he can run. He for UTSA was a big playback. He for UTSA in the 2025 regular season had 6 scrimmage plays each of at least 70 yards, 5 rushes, and 1 reception. And Henry in UTSA's 42-24 loss at then number 19 Texas A&M on August 30th, 2025, had 16 carries for 177 yards and 2 touchdowns. A&M made the college football playoff for the 2025 season, so Henry in a game against a high-level team did very well. And making things even more interesting for Kaytron Allen and Robert Henry Jr., now is this news that running back Jeremy McNichols, per head coach Dan Quinn's press conference on Sunday afternoon, is dealing with a quadriceps injury that will keep McNichols out for multiple weeks. If he has to begin the regular season on the reserve/injured list, then perhaps they're on the team's initial 53-man roster for the 2026 season is room for both Kaytron Allen and Robert Henry Jr. We, during Dan Quinn's press conference on Sunday afternoon, had this back and forth between Commanders insider Martenzie Johnson of Notice and Quinn.
Hey, Coach. Do you have any update on McNichols and if he'll be back this week?
Yep. So Jeremy, he'll be out for a few weeks. He's got a pretty good quad injury, so he will not be back in for this week. You'll see him off to the side, working some rehab into that spot, but he's got a pretty good quad injury that'll take a few weeks for sure.
And then in his absence, particularly coming off of that game, what more do you want to see from Cation and Robert? Yeah,
so coming off of the game, we kind of saw outside. You saw even some special teams on the return side, with Robert. But the more time on task for them, I think, is good. For Kaytron, I thought, the inside runs, like any running back after a game, I was honestly a little pleased that he felt like he left some out there. So, like, no, I didn't play the perfect game, So it was good to know that, like, these are the mistakes. This is what I want to see differently. For him, coming out of the backfield, he's got excellent hands, and there was a play, him coming out of the backfield, that he'd like to have that catch because, like, you see him with his hands and, like, they're very secure. So I know, like, that's one thing for sure he wants to hit on. I was pleased to see Robert Henry in pass protection. And sometimes as a running back, that can be a difficult thing, to get down early. And so on one of the long passes, he had a good protection of the player off the edge. And so I thought those were like good flashes. And I just didn't see any flinch in the two of them for their first games. And so pretty cool if both of them get a touchdown, like, to get the thing started. So lots of work ahead. I like that they're in shape. I like that, we leaned on them for carries and play time, and there was no flinch in that.
And notable to hear Dan Quinn praise Robert Henry Jr. in terms of pass protection. The kicker competition between incumbent Jake Moody and Drew Stevens, the undrafted rookie out of the University of Iowa. Stevens had a better showing than Moody had on Friday night. Jake Moody went 1 for 1 on field goals and 1 for 1 on extra points. Moody connected on a 29-yard field goal with 10:13 left in the second quarter, but this was a doink. The ball doinked off the right upright. Stevens went 1 for 1 on field goals and went 1 for 1 on extra points. Now, he initially missed his extra point attempt, but that miss was negated by a 5-yard false start penalty by offensive lineman Matt Golbin. However, Stevens connected beautifully on a 41-yard field goal with 6:25 left in the fourth quarter. I still consider Stevens to be in the lead in the kicker competition. And then there also was this on Friday night. Washington's defense was bad on the opening drive of the game. Now, yes, Washington in this game did not play a number of significant defensive players, but Washington's defensive starters for this game did include some notable guys. Defensive tackle Johnny Newton, inside linebackers Sonny Styles and Leo Chanel, cornerback Rasul Douglas, safeties Will Harris and Quan Martin. And yet Washington allowed Miami to begin the game with a 14-play, 93-yard drive that consumed 7 minutes, 6 seconds off the clock and resulted in a 2nd and goal, 1 yard under center handoff touchdown run by running back Devon Achane with 7:54 left in the first quarter. Now, this was each team's first game in the NFL's 2026 preseason. Each team for this game did little, if any, game planning. You can't go too crazy with anything from this game in terms of on-field performance. We'll get all of these things, but what happened on the opening drive of the game, way too reminiscent of Washington's defense routinely getting shredded on an opposing team's first offensive drive in a game last regular season. Know this, Washington for the 2025 regular season was number 28 out of 32 NFL teams in fewest first quarter points allowed at 101. Just awful. Washington on Friday night did generate 3 takeaways. It did hold Miami to just 226 total net yards of offense. It did hold Miami to a yards per play of just 4.26. It did hold Miami to just 3 for 12 on third down. So the defense on Friday night did do some good things, but geez, the first drive of the game was painful. During Dan Quinn's postgame press conference late night on Friday night, had this back and forth between Commanders insider Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports and Quinn.
The first defensive drive may not have been the favorite moment.
It certainly was not. Yes.
So what are some of your immediate reactions to that drive specifically?
Yeah. So early on, I thought just in the run game, it felt, like they were, moving yards after contact. Didn't love how, their pass rush to, affect Willis into that space. So although we started slowly, I thought we picked up steam after that. But as far as the first drive goes, to take it all the way down the field, because kicking off, I think they might have muffed the catch to go, and then to have a long drive, it's like, damn. So I wanted to find out their resilience and fight, and so to see them come back and get stops after that, I was pleased. But I just thought we needed to start a little more aggressively, not from a play calling standpoint, just like how we play.
Now, I mentioned that among the Washington starters/key players who played on Friday night were inside linebackers Sonny Styles and Leo Chanel. During Dan Quinn's press conference on Sunday afternoon, had this exchange between columnist David Aldridge of The Athletic and Quinn.
Dan, in particular, what did you see from Sonny and Chanel on Friday?
Yeah, so I thought with both of them, we didn't blitz, neither a lot, but I like how square. Like the games are kind of like Leo's spot, man. Like he's physical, he's square, he's a good tackler. I wasn't pleased at all with the defense overall on the first drive. I thought it was like an explosive pass and just too leaky. In specifically for those two, I like just their command, their presence inside. I feel good with these two, David, because of their physicality and size. So I'm excited to get them some more work, as we're heading into Tuesday and Wednesday for the linemen, the linebackers, the safeties, the running backs. Having two big padded practices back to back will be a good test for us. It's also a week to get like more plays for them, and I want more reps, and they're kind of building that resilience even up a little higher this week. So like the line of scrimmage week, I would say is at hand, but they didn't get a lot of action, but with the two of them, I'm pleased with what I've seen up to now.
All right. Well, two more games for Washington in this preseason: at the Detroit Lions this Saturday at noon, and at the Baltimore Ravens on Friday evening, August 28th at 6. We, for so much of MLB's 2026 regular season, have noted how the Washington Nationals have been so much better on the road than at home. Well, not lately. The Nats now are just 1-10 over their last 11 road games, all of which have been against National League East rivals. The Nats over the weekend got swept in a 3-game series at the New York Mets. Friday night, a 4-1 loss at the Mets in a game in which the Nats blew a 1-0 6-inning lead in allowing 2 runs in the bottom of the 6th and 2 runs in the bottom of the 7th. Saturday, a 5-4 walk-off loss at the Mets in a game in which the Nats overcame a 2-0 fourth-inning deficit but blew a 4-3 ninth-inning lead by allowing 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th. And Sunday afternoon, a 4-3 loss at the Mets in a game in which the Nats blew a 2-0 fourth-inning lead. The Nats in each game in this series blew a lead of some significance. The Nats in this regular season now are 60-66 with a run differential of +18, 33-30 on the road versus 27-36 at home, and now are 7.5 games behind the Philadelphia Phillies and San Diego Padres. So those two teams are tied for the National League's 2nd to 3 wild card spots. So the Phillies have the tiebreaker. So the Padres technically have the National League's 3rd wild card spot. The Mets, they in this regular season now are a National League East worst 56-69 with a run differential of -42. More on the Nats getting swept in this 3-game series at the Mets over the weekend in moments, but the number one Nats item from the last few days came before a single game in this series was played. Nats manager Blake Butera, during his pregame session with reporters on Friday afternoon, announced big-time news that the team is moving C.J. Abrams from being primarily a shortstop to being primarily a second baseman. We on the podcast have talked about the defensive struggles of C.J. Abrams. Abrams, for the Nats, at the time of this announcement from Butera, had accumulated the following defensive stats over 5,297 Major League regular season innings at shortstop, -11 defensive run save per Sports Info Solutions, and -63 outs above average per StatCast. I have strongly advocated for the Nats to move Abrams to second base, so I applaud that the Nats are doing this. This, to me, is another good sign for Nats baseball operations. We've had so many needed and positive changes with Nats baseball operations since the team this past October 1st announced the hiring of Paul Taboni as president of baseball operations. C.J. Abrams is having a really good offensive season, but he's having another bad defensive season. He's not a shortstop. I wanted the Nats to move off from being a shortstop at least by next season. That the team is enacting the change now, great. Now, here's some things to keep in mind with the Nats moving C.J. Abrams from being primarily a shortstop to being primarily a second baseman. Blake Butera on Friday afternoon did say that Abrams isn't being completely moved off being a shortstop. That's why I'm using that word primarily. Abrams, per Butera, still will play some shortstop. Abrams becoming primarily a second baseman is happening soon, but not right away. He, for each of the Nats' 3 games at the Mets over the weekend, was the team's starting shortstop. There is zero guarantee that Abrams will be a good defensive second baseman. The skills required to be a good defensive shortstop also apply to being a good defensive second baseman. The idea here is that Abrams being bad defensively as a second baseman will hurt the Nats less than him being bad defensively as a shortstop, because shortstop is more of a premium defensive position than second base is. The best defensive position for Abrams probably is a corner outfield spot, but the Nats have an abundance of outfielders. The Nats farm system is loaded with well-regarded shortstop prospects. That, to me, unquestionably is part of the Nats moving Abrams from being primarily a shortstop to being primarily a second baseman. The Nats' top prospect is a shortstop, Eli Willits, who they took out of a high school in Oklahoma with the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 MLB first-year player draft. Eli Willits, per MLB Pipeline, is the Nats' number 1 overall prospect and is the number 4 overall prospect in baseball. And F, as yes, there is an F. Abrams now being moved from being primarily a shortstop to being primarily a second baseman costs him money because great second basemen get paid less than great shortstops get paid. What this change for Abrams means regarding the likelihood of the Nats signing him to a contract extension versus the likelihood of the Nats trading him is hard to say, but great second basemen do not get paid what great shortstops get paid. Abrams is in his age 25 season and is under team control through the 2028 season. A fascinating decision by the Nats here, announcing that they are moving C.J. Abrams from being primarily a shortstop to being primarily a second baseman. Now, the Nats offense over the team getting swept in this 3-game series at the Mets over the weekend, not good. The Nats over the 3 games totaled a mere 8 runs. The Nats in the lead up to the 2026 MLB trade deadline, which was on August 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern, traded away 3 key players in infielder Curtis Mead, first baseman Luis Garcia Jr., and starting pitcher Foster Griffin. The Nats on August 4th announced having placed outfielder James Wood on the 10-day injured list due to a left oblique strain. And by the way, his recovery has been slower than expected. We got that update via Blake Buter's pregame media session that started late Sunday morning. The Nats offense is down multiple key players, and the offense being without these key players is showing. The 4-1 loss at the Mets on Friday night, the Nats were bad offensively. Just 1 run, just 5 hits, all of which were singles, just 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The Nats did draw 4 walks, so Brady House as the Nats starting DH and number 3 batter did go 2 for 3 with an RBI single, another single, and a hit by pitch. The 5-4 walk-off loss at the Mets on Saturday, the Nats were so-so offensively. 4 runs, 7 hits, which were 2 home runs, a triple, and 4 singles, 2 walks, 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position, 11 strikeouts. So Brady House as the Nats starting third baseman and number 3 batter went 1 for 4 with a 3-run homer. House in the Nats 3-run 6 had a win-out 3-run homer off the left field foul pole for a 4-2 Nats lead. Andres Chaparro, he is the Nats starting first baseman and number 2 batter, went 1 for 2 with a solo homer and a walk. Chaparro in the Nats 1-run 4th had a leadoff homer to left field on an 0-2 pitch to cut the Nats deficit to 2-1. And the 4-3 loss at the Mets on Sunday afternoon, the Nats were bad offensively. Just 3 runs, just 5 hits, which were a home run, and 4 singles, just 2 walks, 11 strikeouts. The Nats did go 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position. The homer was by Abimelec Ortiz as he homered again. He is the Nats starting first baseman and number 2 batter, 1 for 4 with a solo homer. Ortiz in the Nats 1-run 3rd had a 2-out opposite field solo homer to left center field for a 2-0 Nats lead. Also, Keep It Ruiz, he is the Nats starting catcher and number 8 batter, went 2 for 3 with 2 RBI singles. But Abimelec Ortiz has tied former Nats first baseman Joey Meneses for the most home runs by a Nats player over his first 14 Major League career regular season games with the team since it moved to Washington, D.C. in the 2004-2005 offseason. 5 home runs for Abimelec Ortiz over his first 14 Major League career regular season games with the Nats. He has been a ton of fun to watch, but the Nats offense otherwise has calmed down a good bit since the team traded away Curtis Mead and Luis Garcia Jr. and since James Wood got injured. We did see Brady House do some good things in this series. That was good, but another key young player for the Nats, Dylan Cruz. Where is Dylan Cruz? He in Game 1 of this series came off the bench to play right field. He in Games 2 and 3 of the series was the Nats starting right fielder, was the Nats number 1 batter in Game 2, was the Nats number 3 batter in Game 3. He over the 3 games went 0 for 9 with no walks. He at the major league level in this regular season, which began with him playing for AAA Rochester off him having been optioned to Rochester on March 20th before being recalled on May 19th, now has an OPS of 641. Not acceptable for a guy who was taken with the number 2 overall pick in the 2023 MLB first-year player draft out of LSU. How come Abimelec Ortiz can tear up opposing pitching while Dylan Cruz still is struggling at the major league level more than 3 years years after being drafted. The Nats pitching over the team getting swept in 3 games at the Mets over the weekend overall was so-so. The 4-1 loss at the Mets on Friday night. Andrew Alvarez was the Nats starting pitcher, and he did do well. He officially allowed 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings with 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up just 2 hits, which were a home run and a single. Issued a wild pitch, threw a good number of strikes, 73 pitches, 47 strikes, 26 balls. Alvarez in the Mets' 2-run 6 was charged with 2 runs, including giving up a 2-out solo homer by Francisco Lindor to left field to tie the game at 1. Ending the streak. The home run snapped Alvarez's streak of consecutive innings without allowing a home run at 56 2/3 innings. Super impressive streak. The 4th longest regular season streak of a Nats pitcher not allowing a home run since the franchise moved to D.C. in the 2004-2005 offseason. But Andrew Alvarez at the major league level in this regular season overall doing well. 18 games, including 10 starts, ERA of 3.72, whip of 1.33. But a rough game for Nats relief pitching in the 4-1 loss at the Mets on Friday night. 2 Nats relievers officially allowed 2 runs in 2 1/3 innings. Jake Bird officially allowed 2 runs in 1 inning. He, to the second battery phase, gave up a 2-out RBI single by Carson Benj into right field for a 2-1 Mets lead in their 2-run 6. And Bird in the Mets' 2-run 7th gave up a 1-out solo homer by Jared Young to right field for a 3-1 Mets lead. And Max Kranick officially tossed 1 1/3 scoreless innings with 3 swinging strikeouts, but he, to the first battery phase, gave up a 2-out RBI single by Bo Bichette into left center field for a 4-1 Mets lead in the bottom of the 7th. The 5-4 walk-off loss at the Mets on Saturday. The Nats went with a bullpen game, and the results were, shall we say, mixed. Brad Lord was the Nats starting pitcher for the game, but he was a mess. He didn't even last for 1 inning. He allowed 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, gave up just 1 hit, which was a double, but he issued 4 walks. He could not find the strike zone, recorded a strikeout through an astounding 44 pitches. Get this, 21 strikes versus 23 balls. But Will Dion then came into the game, and Will Dion was outstanding. He tossed 4 1/3 scoreless and hitless innings with 7 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He threw 64 pitches, 41 strikes, 23 balls. Tom Cosgrove allowed 1 run in 1 inning. He, in the bottom of the 6th, gave up a leadoff homer by Carson Benj to right field to cut the Nats' lead to 4-3. Orlando Revolta tossed a perfect bottom of the 7th. Clayton Beeter tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th, despite giving up 2 singles and despite issuing a walk into wild pitch. I'm still not sure how Beeter tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th. And Giovanni Cruz allowed 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning. He, in the bottom of the 9th, allowed 2 runs on a double, 2 singles, and a walk. Gave up a first pitch RBI double by Francisco Alvarez to left field to tie the game at 4. And Cruz gave up a walk-off, 1-out RBI single by Francisco Lindor to right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 5-4 Nats loss. Giovanni Cruz completely lost confidence in his four-seam fastball, which is elite in terms of velocity. He ended up throwing so many sliders. 18 of his 23 pitches were sliders per StatCast, and he ended up blowing the save chance. And the 4-3 loss at the Mets on Sunday afternoon, the Nats starting pitcher for the game was Jake Irvin, and he had what has become a typical Jake Irvin outing. He allowed 4 runs in 6 innings, gave up 8 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles, and 5 singles, issued 3 walks, so he put a lot of guys on base, did record 6 strikeouts, did throw a good number of strikes, 98 pitches, 64 strikes, 34 balls. Jake Irvin now at the major league level in this regular season, 15 games, all starts, ERA of 5.80, whip of 1.36. He was out for more than 2 months due to a right shoulder strain, but he's not having a good season. What is his age 29 season? He's under team control through the 2029 season, but I do wonder if he this coming offseason will get non-tendered. The Nats relief pitching in the 4-3 loss at the Mets on Sunday afternoon was good. 2 Nats relievers combined for 2 scoreless innings. Max Kranick tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th despite giving up a 2-out triple, and Jake Bird tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th with 2 strikeouts despite giving up a 1-out single. Also, the Nats on Friday afternoon announced having requested unconditional release waivers on pitcher Miles Michaelis. No surprise, the Nats last Wednesday afternoon announced having designated Michaelis for assignment. No game for the Nats on Monday. Next up for them is a 3-game series at the Texas Rangers. The Nats have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1 Tuesday night at 8:05, Jackson Kent. Game 2, Wednesday night at 8:05, Cade Cavalli. Game 3, Thursday night at 8:05, Andrew Alvarez. So the Baltimore Orioles are being walloped by injury for a third consecutive season. The Baltimore Orioles traded away catcher Adley Rutschman, outfielder Taylor Ward, starting pitcher Dean Kramer, and relief pitcher Tyler Wells in the lead-up to the 2026 MLB trade deadline, which was on August 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern. And yet, the Baltimore Orioles are in sole possession of the American League's third of three wildcard spots. Unbelievable! And yet, this is true. The O's in MLB's 2026 regular season have gone from 42-51 to 61-63, 19-12 over the team's last 31 games. The O's over the weekend won the first three games of a four-game series at the American League leading Tampa Bay Rays. Friday night, a 6-5 win at the Rays, despite the O's allowing 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth, but the win ended the Rays' 9-game winning streak. Saturday evening, a 4-3 10-inning win at the Rays, despite the O's blowing a 3-2 ninth-inning lead. And Sunday afternoon, a 10-2 win at the Rays in a game in which the O's scored 3 runs in the top of the fifth and 7 runs in the top of the sixth. The O's in this regular season now are 61-63 with a run differential of minus 26. So 2 games below 500, run differential of minus 26. And yet, in sole possession of the American League's third of three wildcard spots, a half game ahead of the Texas Rangers. The Rays, they in this regular season now are an American League best 74-49 with a run differential of plus 52. The Orioles offense over the team winning the first 3 games of this 4-game series at the Rays overall has been good. 20 runs over the 3 games. The 6-5 win at the Rays on Friday night. The O's were good offensively. 6 runs, 12 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 9 singles, 3 walks, 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Gunnar Henderson, he is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 5 batter, as yes, he got dropped down to the number 5 spot, went 4 for 4 with a 2-run homer, a double, and 2 singles. Did get thrown out in an attempted steal of second base, but Colton Cowser, he is the Orioles starting center fielder and number 8 batter, went 1 for 2 with a solo homer. The 4-3 10-inning win at the Rays on Saturday evening. The O's were so-so offensively and scoring 4 runs, so the O's had 9 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 6 singles, went 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position, but drew just 2 walks and struck out 15 times. However, Pete Alonso, a good game for him. He is the Orioles starting first baseman and number 2 batter, went 3 for 5 with a solo homer and 2 singles. Christian Encarnacion Strand, he is the Orioles starting third baseman and number 6 batter, went 1 for 5 with a solo homer. Gunnar Henderson, he is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 5 batter, went 1 for 4 with a single and an intentional walk. And the 10-2 win at the Rays on Sunday afternoon. The O's were great offensively. 10 runs, 9 hits, which were a home run, 3 doubles, and 5 singles, 7 walks, 4 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Colton Cowser, he is the Orioles starting center fielder and number 7 batter, went 2 for 5 with a 2-run homer and a single. Pete Alonso got on base 4 times. He is the Orioles starting DH and number 2 batter, went 1 for 1 with a 2-run double, 2 walks, and a hit by pitch. Jackson Holliday, he is the Orioles starting second baseman and number 1 batter, went 2 for 4 with a 2-run double, an RBI single, and a walk. And Christian Encarnacion Strand, he is the Orioles starting third baseman and number 4 batter, went 1 for 5 with a 3-run double. Pete Alonso continues to be so good. He, for this regular season, now has an OPS of .851. Colton Cowser is having a tremendous August. He, for this month of August, has a slugging percentage of .633. And speaking of slugging percentage, Christian Encarnacion Strand, he for the O's at the major league level in this regular season, 83 plate appearances, slugging percentage of .500. The Orioles starting pitching over the team winning the first 3 games of this 4-game series at the Rays has been great. The 6-5 win at the Rays on Friday night. Chris Bassett was back. The O's on Friday afternoon announced having reinstated Bassett from the 60-day injured list. He'd been on that since July 17th. He was on the 15-day injured list from June 8th, retroactive to June 5th to July 17th. All of this was due to lower back discomfort, but Bassett on Friday night did well. Allowed 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings, gave up 5 hits, which were a double and 4 singles. Issued 3 walks, recorded 3 strikeouts, threw 88 pitches, 50 53 strikes, 35 balls. What will the O's get from Chris Bassitt down the stretch of this regular season? The O's this past February 13th announced having agreed with Bassitt on a one-year contract as a free agent. The one-year contract reportedly worth $18.5 million. This is his age 37 season. His overall stats for the O's at the major league level in this regular season are not good. 13 games, including 11 starts, ERA of 5.11, whip of 1.62. But Bassitt came to the O's having been very good. He, over the previous 7 regular seasons, 2019 through 2025, registered an ERA of 3.60 and an ERA plus of 116 over 192 games, including 188 starts. The 4-3 10-inning win at the Rays on Saturday evening. Kyle Bradish allowed 2 runs in 6 innings. Despite his peripherals not being good, he gave up 7 hits, which were a triple, a double, and 5 singles. Issued 4 walks, recorded just 3 strikeouts through 93 pitches, just 52 strikes versus 41 balls. But still, Bradish allowed 2 runs in 6 innings. Kyle Bradish now in this regular season, 24 games, all starts, ERA of 3.65, whip of 1.36, and the 10-2 win at the Rays on Sunday afternoon. Trevor Rogers allowed 2 runs in 6 innings with 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk. Terrific. He gave up 7 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 5 singles. Threw a ton of strikes. 98 pitches, 73 strikes, just 25 balls. Trevor Rogers now in this regular season, 23 games, all starts, ERA of 4.15, whip of 1.25. But he, since the start of June, has been excellent. He, over 5 starts in June, had an ERA at 2.05. He, over 5 starts in July, had an ERA at 2.37, and he, over 3 starts in August, has an ERA of 3.38. And the Orioles' relief pitching over the team winning the first 3 games of this 4-game series at the Rays has been mixed, although a very interesting development over the first 2 games, the rise of Cam Sanders as a high-leverage reliever. Remember, the Orioles' top 2 closers, Felix Bautista and Ryan Helsley, are on the 60-day injured list. The 6-5 win at the Rays on Friday night. 5 Orioles relievers combined to allow 3 runs in 3 2/3 innings. The culprit was Yunier Cano, who overall is having a good season, but Cano on Friday night allowed 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He and the Rays' 3-run ninth allowed 3 runs on 3 singles, a wild pitch, and a walk. He threw 24 pitches, just 12 strikes versus 12 balls. But Cam Sanders got the save via facing 2 batters. He came into the game in the bottom of the 9th with a runner on second, 2 outs, and the O's clinging to a 6-5 lead. Orioles manager Craig Albornaz ordered an intentional walk of the Rays' number 5 batter, Liam Hicks, despite him representing the winning run. A gutsy call by Albornaz, but the decision worked. Sanders induced a first-pitch game-ending flyout by Ryan Valade to center fielder Leody Taveras in left center field. The 4-3 10-inning win at the Rays on Saturday evening. 5 Orioles relievers combined to allow 1 run in 4 innings. Andrew Kittredge did allow 1 run in 1 inning for a blown save. He, in the bottom of the 9th, allowed a run on 3 consecutive 2-out singles to tie the game at 3. But Cam Sanders tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 10th with 2 swinging strikeouts for the save. Cam Sanders, the O's this past July 13th, announced having traded cash considerations to the Pittsburgh Pirates for Cam Sanders, and here he was over games 1 and 2 of this series at the Rays, getting 2 saves. And the 10-2 win at the Rays on Sunday afternoon, 3 Orioles relievers, Alex Hoppe, Grant Wolfram, and Albert Suarez combined for 3 scoreless innings. Could the O's actually pull off a 4-game sweep at one of the best teams in MLB in the Rays? Game 4 for the O's at the Rays Monday evening at 6:05. The O's have listed Brandon Young as their probable starting pitcher for the game. And that'll do it for you and me for now, but there's more to come. Tuesday's show, episode 1390. We'll have plenty for you on the Washington Commanders. Also on Tuesday's show, I'll talk Baltimore Orioles. The O's are at the Tampa Bay Rays Monday evening at 6:05 for Game 4 of a 4-game series. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
You know, I haven't followed it a lot, JP, but I know he addressed it. Yeah, of course, obviously, like checked in with him like you do, but honestly, like, man, is he throwing a great camp. So, but I haven't, like I said, I haven't followed a lot. I know he addressed it. I thought that was on point. But for him, the things that I see are just like quintessential Jayden in terms of the camp and what it looks like and where he's at.
Meet Keith, loving dad, board game champ, bus driving pro. I drive 65,000 miles in my bus each year. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. Like how there are some things I simply can't see. On my route the other day, a car tried to sneak past me and ends up right in my blind spot. I turned slowly, so accident avoided. But no car should be in the blind spot for a 40,000-pound bus. It's our roads. It's our safety.
Visit www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.